Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about A Prompt Beyond. I've been using AI since 2022, late 2022, with ChatGPT. Made their big announcement. It was all the buzz in the internet and in the circles that I run in on the internet, all two of them. It's a big thing. What we've learned over this time is that how we interact with AI tools influences and informs and changes what we get back from them. And over time, we've learned to do better prompting in order to get the results that we want. So we're going to be talking about that today as a productivity and thinking partner. AI can make things better for you if you know more about prompting. So here's what we're looking at. AI is transforming work, we know that. AI won't take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI might. AI can be an efficiency tool, allowing you to do things that you would normally be doing, but to do them faster or better. AI is also an opportunity tool. It may be able to allow you to do things that you would not be otherwise able to do without it. And that's a real opportunity for increasing your productivity and your value to the institution. And AI can be a thinking partner with people like in our positions. We are knowledge workers is one of the things that we get called. So we deal with information, and AI can help you structure your thinking about that, can introduce new information, and can assist you with that process of dealing with data and information and decisions on a daily basis. So what we're going to be talking about today are these topics: context, structured prompting. AI is a conversation tool with a prompt that I use for forcing AI to converse with me rather than to do all of the things AI likes to do. Iteration, very key context or very key concept in doing AI prompting. If we have time, we'll get to the future of this with task pipelines and other kinds of things. Okay, here is an AI prompt. You have this prompt in a digital form, or you have all this information in a digital form in the handout that I sent out with the meeting announcement. Here's what we know. This is the context of where we're working, and this is also about the context that AI needs to understand when it is dealing with the work that you're having to do. Base AI has short-term working memory. Whatever is in the conversation is what shapes that response. If you have a paid level AI, those tend to have a more persistent memory, prior conversations, and even global instructions that you can provide a paid tier can shape the responses. So you can actually do some pre-prompting with those global instructions. We know that different AI models produce different results and are better at some things than others. And different prompting produces different results. And finally, the foundation for this is you will get better responses if you shape the context of the prompts that you use. Let's get into that. Here's two examples. The first one is poor context. It works. Don't get me wrong. Just because I say it's poor, it still works. Tell me about motivation. You can get information just like you could if you went to Google. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's better to go to Google or another search engine, but sometimes AI can answer questions like this with their base knowledge. However, if you want a more tailored response, one that has more actionable information and more specific information, you would want to provide more context. Here's the example of that. Explain student motivation to a first-time college instructor and include 3 practical strategies that they can use in their next class. So you see here, we're telling AI to explain motivation for some specific person or type of person that shapes the AI's context for what they can process and produce. Include 3 practical strategies. Again, we're shaping the context of the AI. We're telling it, this is what we want. Don't give me 100 ideas. Give me 3 practical strategies, and they should be actionable in the next class. Shaping context in this way will give you better results. How do you learn how to do this? Well, let's take a look at this. The basic prompting structure is what I consider to be this: role, task, context, and output requirements. So in the case of the role, that you're telling the AI to act in a certain role or be a certain type of knowledge worker or a certain type of expert. The task is what you're trying to accomplish. The context are those things that you're shaping the way the AI is going to process and output. And then, of course, you have the output requirements, exactly what you want. So here's maybe one that we can all resonate with. We live in Michigan, beautiful state. My wife and I love the Upper Peninsula. We always want to find interesting kinds of things to do. So here is a shaped AI prompt. This is a prompt that uses this basic role, task, context, and output requirements framework to get a certain result. So act as a knowledgeable guide to hiking in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. That's its role. It's a knowledgeable guide. Task is to create a list of 3 great summer day hiking experiences in the UP for a small group of middle-aged experienced hikers. Here's where we're going to shape the output. Be sure to include the name of the trailhead location, what town or towns are nearby, points of interest to see on the hike, and an after-hike eating recommendation. And this is what you get. Pictures, name of the trailhead, nearby towns, the distance, the difficulty, why this hike meets those conditions of being a great one, points of interest, and the most important thing, the after-hike food. Here's the second one. Same information, it followed the structure that I provided, and then the third one. That is how you can take that basic structure to get the kinds of output that you want. All right, so now it's your turn. If you have your computer handy, think of a prompt that you might actually want to use in your personal life or in your business life, and try this role, task, context, and output requirements. You might do something like act as an expert in something to create a something for the people that you want to create it for, and include shape the output requirements. Do that now, and then we'll get into some results. And again, you have these prompts available in that handout that I gave that you can copy and paste if you'd like to try it. So here is an example, again, available in the handout that I sent out, that you might use here at work. Act as an expert community college instructor and instructional designer, so Sonia and I's jobs are at risk, with deep knowledge of learning science, student engagement, and equitable teaching practice. The task, help me design or improve a learning experience, assignment, or course component that aligns with clear learning outcomes and promotes meaningful student learning. And here's the context. And here, this bulleted list are the kinds of things that you might add to the context. Like this is for a science class. The student population are dual enrolled. You would choose, you wouldn't want to do everybody. The modality, this is a CBE class. The current challenge, I have low engagement, or my students are using AI. You might use those kinds of things. Constraints that you might have. And then the output that you want, again, I want you to provide a clearly structured plan. Or I want you to make sure that you align to these attached learning outcomes. Things like that are how you can shape the output. So here's an example our instructors could use. Next, again, this prompt is available in the handout. This is a prompt that we might use here in our work as administrators. Act as an experienced community college administrator or staff member with expertise in student services or operations and institutional effectiveness. Task, help me design or maybe improve or evaluate. You would choose one of those. You wouldn't want to do all 3 of them. A service or initiative that supports student success. And then you'd want to be able to describe that, maybe even upload a document that would help describe that. The context, here's the area of focus or the current problem that we have. Again, this bulleted list, you would choose one from that or supply your own. And then finally, the output, I want a rationale tied to student success and institutional goals, or I want you to identify potential risks or barriers to this plan that I've uploaded. So that's how you can use that role, task, context, and output prompt structure to shape the context and control the AI so that it produces results that you want. But do you always have to have such a formal prompting structure? Well, no. Sometimes I like to use AI as a thinking partner, a conversational partner. But the problem that I have is that AI tends to want to hog all the attention. It wants to take one question that I ask or one idea that I say, I want to talk about this idea, and it will give me 3 pages of ideas. Well, here's this information and this information, or let me create a plan to train people how to do that, and so on. I don't want all of that sometimes. So for that, what I do is a prompt like this. And again, this prompt is available in the handout, electronic form, if you want to try this out. So I use a prompt like this. Act as a conversational thinking partner in a professional setting, telling it who it is. Your role is to help me think and not to rush answers. Focus on understand what I mean by reflecting it back and asking clarifying questions when needed. And so on. You can read this for yourself. So a prompt like this attempts to constrain the AI so that instead of giving you all the information it has or attempting to rush to completion, because that's something that AI is programmed to do. It is programmed to rush to completion, to get to something that you will say, great job on. But sometimes you just want to talk, and this prompt will work for that, and I encourage you to try it. So, as I was saying, AI tends to do these things. It tends to rush to completion. It fakes certainty. It will give you something and go, here's a great idea. And you go, oh yeah, that looks like a great idea. But AI doesn't really know, right? This is all statistical modeling of parts of words connected to other parts with statistics. It's kind of crazy. And AI tends to be over-helpful. It tends to want to overproduce, sometimes so much that it becomes a cognitive load issue. You can't even deal with all of the ideas that it presents if you don't constrain it. And the other thing that I want to talk about here as we move into iteration is using a process of refining the output that you get back from your AI and shaping that output in that conversation so that you can direct what AI does. Because you have to remember, only you care about the results. So you're in charge, and you can ask your AI to do different kinds of things for you that it may not think of because that's part of your process or your way of approaching the tasks that you're using AI for. Remember, only you have a purpose. AI doesn't know what you need. It doesn't know what you know. This is the big thing. AI is smart about knowledge in the world that it can get via the internet training. But it's dumb about your job. It's dumb about all of the things that are unwritten about how a college works. And that's what you have to help supply. And of course, only you are accountable for the results that you produce with AI. We're going to use iteration as that process of shaping this. So here are 4 keys that you use in iteration. This isn't the only way of thinking about iteration, but this is 4 ways that I like to think about it. Clarify, constrain, improve, and transform. Let's take a look at each in turn. So if we're going to have AI do clarification, we can take its output from our first well-structured prompt and say, focus on this. Or if it uses terminology, define this. Or perhaps it's vague about some concept that you know is very important. Define this in greater detail. Or you might realize, yeah, it's making an assumption, or it seems to be having assumptions that do not fit with the actual environment that you're working in. Tell it, assume these conditions, not the ones that you made up. Here's one that I use a lot. Avoid buzzwords and jargon. I also always tell it never use the M dash because that's an overused kind of thing. Make this more precise, or use these standards. Or you might even ask questions. Iteration works great when you ask the AI, what standards are you applying to this? Or what is your framework here? Or what are the assumptions you're making about this? Or did you forget about this that I included in the prompt? Those are ways to use clarification in an iterative conversation with AI. Next, constraining. As I said, AI tends to overproduce. It's overly helpful. So you might tell it, limit your response to this. So you create a well-structured prompt, it gives you things, and you realize, oh, it went way wider than I need to. So you might say, limit it to only this one part of what you produced. Narrow that focus down. Only include or do not include. Again, constraining what it's giving you. And this would be in the second pass. You've already created a good prompt. What you get back is just a first try. Even though AI will give it to you like, here, this is great. Use these kinds of iterative task shaping tools to make the AI focus. And what's funny, at least ChatGPT is really bad about this, unless you tell it not to do this. It will say, oh, that's a great idea. I should have thought of that after you give them a thing like only include this or follow these rules or exclude. It will usually give you some fake praise. I even call it sycophantic praise, and I tell it not to do that because it's annoying to me. All right, so the next one, constraining. Limit this. Only include, don't include. Use these terms, follow these rules, exclude, and ask questions. Why did you do that? And probe it. And then improve, strengthen the argument, optimize for this, revise this, sharpen this, deepen this, explain more. Did you forget? What about this? Those are all great iterative stems for your conversation to use in shaping the AI's responses to you. And then the last one is helpful, and that is transform. Convert this to a PowerPoint, convert this to a handout. Turn into, repurpose this as, provide 3 different versions. This is something that's kind of interesting. If you're working on something that lends itself to this, you can actually ask AI to produce different versions. You can compare them, but you can also have the AI, and sometimes I'll use a separate AI tool to make the comparison to find strengths and weaknesses in that compare and contrast. You can give AI a template or a guide. You can attach a document to your conversation and say, use this attached document as the template or guide for your production of X, Y, or Z. You can even ask it, what other ways could this be structured as? What other file formats or what other kinds of structure might work for this that I hadn't thought of? So iterative, conversational shaping of the AI's work over time is something that I really recommend that you do. It's an important tool. Now, let's talk about what I think is starting to get us into the future, and I'm just starting to work on things like this, and that is an AI task pipeline. Instead of thinking of my prompting and my session with an AI as just a simple conversation, I think of it as a project. And I think of it as, what if I had a human team working on this, how might I do it? So you might start off in a logical order way of thinking. You might say, let's work on only the outcomes. So let's think about course design. Let's think about the outcomes. Here is my course. Here are the outcomes. What does that outcome talk? How can we shape this? Are these outcomes appropriate for a college level sociology class, 101 level? You might give it the textbook and say, make sure that there's alignment between the outcomes in this textbook. So you begin with that process, like you might do if you were considering doing a new course design or a revision. Next, after we have the outcomes nailed down, say, take these outcomes, and this will be a totally separate conversation, not in the same conversation. It might even be a different AI tool. But the next one is define the assessments that would match the outcomes as listed. So what it will do, and you would want to use that AI prompting tool, you want to tell it to act as an expert in the development of college-level assessments and Bloom's taxonomy, for example, to develop outcome-connected assessments for the attached outcomes. That would be the prompt in the second one. The third one might be another conversation. Act as an expert in active learning strategies for face-to-face class. Create activities that would help students move from their base knowledge, which you could describe to the AI in your prompt, to mastery in these listed assessments. Again, it's a pipeline. You start, the next thing, and the next thing. One of the reasons why this is powerful thinking is because we're beginning to have AI tools coming online called agents that can actually be structured in this way and to work semi-autonomously. So you could set up, it's hard right now, and you don't have to do this. You can do this manually. But this is forward thinking. Next year, you're going to be able to create agents that will do a process like this for you, and you'll be able to monitor it on your phone or something like that. So be thinking about that. Another way to think about this pipeline would be big picture to detail. You set the big context. You might gather and assimilate information about that topic or context. Then you would create a project plan, and then you would execute the plan. You might just take the plan, execute it live in human space, or you might then go on to develop another set of AI agents that would do all of the parts of the plan. This is what the future holds for us, and I think it's something that is going to really affect the world of work, and I think we need to be aware of it. And that is this agentic AI. And a simple definition of this is AI that is able to do its own planning, actually take actions, use tools. I mean, you could actually have the AI on your computer, and it would be able to pull up Photoshop. It would be able to pull up Word and produce things in those desktop tools for you. And it does this with some level of autonomy. And you might supervise each step, or you might say, tell me what you're working on every step of the way. Give me a process report. You wouldn't have to actually do a lot of the sitting at the keyboard. There are people who are playing with this now that manage this all from their mobile phone. It's kind of interesting. All right, we're at the end of our presentation, and I want to just take this moment to wrap things up. We're only at 10:30, so we have plenty of time for questions. And that is, as we're thinking about what we've talked about here today, using AI prompting and getting better, so a prompt beyond. Think of trying to learn how to do a new level of prompting beyond what you're already using. If you're used and comfortable to just asking questions, try that role, task, context, and output prompting structure and compare it. If you're comfortable with that, try it with 2 different AI tools. If you're comfortable with that, begin working on iterative processes. Think about what you want as your end goal and help the AI through iteration arrive at as close as you can to that thing. In terms of Jackson College, I think that these kinds of tools are a way for us to be more efficient. If you think about how the work that we do already, moving it through faster with less effort, less time. But it's also an opportunity for us to do things that we haven't done before. And that's important because we're being asked as a college to do things that we have not done before. And I think AI is a part of that. But the other thing that I want us to think about is, what does this mean for how we're teaching our students? We know AI is changing the world of work. And through this glimpse at AI prompting and at the future of agentic AI, I'm wondering if there's not space and the need for us to begin teaching students in all of our programs something about these things in the context of the job that we expect them to occupy once they graduate from here. So I'm going to encourage you, if you're in charge of a program or a degree, look for a class where you could build at least an activity into it, where it's not, you can't use AI for this, it's you must use AI for this, and we're going to teach you how. Or if you've got an elective in your degree or in your program that could use some work, maybe some updating, think about using that elective as an opportunity to create a project-based environment that's really centered around what the world of work, like our sim lab over in the medical building, what the world of work looks like once a student graduates. And now we're going to be asking us as a college to predict how are employers of our graduates going to want our product, our students, to use AI? What's going to give them an edge against competitors? What's going to help that business do more with less, to do it more efficiently, or do things that it could not do without AI? They're going to be looking to our students to do that kind of work, and I think we need to think about preparing them for that. Thank you for attending. If you have any questions, contact me. If you want to talk about course design, especially AI-infused course design, Sonia and I would love to do that kind of thing with you. Have a good day.